family. This is Ricky, and welcome to Hope for Today. Let's get to God's Word because it's
The Gospel is Week at Hope for Today. Today.
We're talking about all things gospel. What is the gospel? And it's the gospel is. Yesterday we said the gospel is grace. And as we move forward in our journey to give hope for today, we said that the gospel is adoption. The gospel is adoption. When you put your trust and faith in Jesus, you are reconciled to God. You become a member in God's family. And here's the beautiful thing about becoming a member of God's family. No matter what I do, I will always be at Jenkins. Always. I will always be Richard and Jackie's son. I always will be. Even if I am an idiot or a fool, that still does not part ways with my family. I'll always be a Jenkins. And that's the good news about putting your trust and faith in Jesus. Once you put your hope in Jesus, you are adopted. Your goose is cooked. John chapter 10 says, neither shall anyone pluck them out of my hands. You will die a member of God's family. You will go to heaven. God literally takes you from the world and makes you a son or a daughter of his. Ephesians chapter 1. Paul says in verse 4, even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him. In love, he predestined us for adoption to himself as sons through Jesus Christ, according to the purpose of his will. I love this because essentially it says that God took me from where I used to be and put me where I'm supposed to be. I've got a good buddy and mentor. Brian Laritz is his name. Brian is a great preacher, flies all over the world, literally, to preach the gospel. And as such, he's earned points. He's what's called a Diamond Club member with Delta Airlines. And so Brian will purchase a regular coach ticket, but he always gets bumped up to first class because he's got so many miles. Well, there's one trip he decides to take with his wife, Corey. And the story goes that Brian and Corey are getting on the plane and they've got coach tickets, but Brian gets the news that he's been bumped up to first class. And so what's happening is he gets on his seat first and watches his wife walk by to her coach seat. And as everybody's settling, he's thinking to himself, if I really want to continue securing the relationship I have with my wife, I think it makes sense for me to give up my first class seat and swap with her to go to coach. And so the picture was one of him walking past her on his way to coach and on her way to first class. That's the gospel. You see, we were headed to a coach seat called death, hell, and the grave. And Jesus was in a first class heaven and not wanting to see our relationship disrupted. My Bible says he left first class and he came down to coach. And he swapped places with us that whoever would believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. He adopted us. Ain't that hope for today? I'll see you next time.